Hello everyone! In the next couple of minutes we're going to go over the very basics of the coagulation cascade. And you definitely don't need to be a superhero to figure this out. To understand coagulation disorders and or bleeding disorders, one must have a great understanding of the coagulation cascade. But sometimes these coagulation cascades could look really intimidating. In the next few slides, we're going to break down this complicated diagram into basic terms, and by the end of the session, you're going to feel pretty good about the coagulation cascade. To better understand this coagulation cascade, we're going to break it down into this simplified form without the inhibitors and without the control pathways present. The three major parts of the coagulation cascade include the extrinsic pathway or the PT pathway, the intrinsic pathway or the PTT pathway, and the common pathway, which involves both PT and PTT when affected. So how do we remember the order of this coagulation cascade and the specific characteristics of the coagulation factors and associated anticoagulants? To master the coagulation cascade, one must know 5 basic things about the coagulation factors and anticoagulants that are going to be essential in understanding their normal function and how they relate to abnormal entities. The first factoid is just the alphabet of the coagulation cascade, so just knowing factors 1 through factor 13. The next factoid is to know which factors and anticoagulants are vitamin K dependent. The mnemonic for that is 1972, which stands for factor 10, factor 9, factor 7, factor 2, protein C, and protein S. The next fact to keep in mind is that all of these factors are made in liver hepatocytes. The exception to that is factor 8, which is made in endothelial cells and reticular endothelial cells. You then need to know which anticoagulants and coagulation factors have the shortest half-life, since that could have diagnostic and therapeutic implications. The shortest half-life is the anticoagulant protein C, followed by the coagulation factor, factor 7. The next thing to remember is just a couple of mnemonics. The mnemonic for the PT or the extrinsic pathway is that it's the shortest pathway and it has just a couple of factors in it, including factor 7, so lucky number 7, and lucky for you just to having to remember one thing. The mnemonic for the common pathway, or the one that affects both PT and PTT, is the small dollar bills. Just like the $1, $2, $5, and $10 bill, it affects factor 1, factor 2, factor 5, and factor 10. Finally, the order of the common pathway is a countdown from 10, 5, 2, 1. And there is no need for the PTT or the intrinsic pathway mnemonic, since the rest of them fall into that pathway. The following factoids about normal coagulation cascade and coagulation factors will now enable you to become a better diagnostician when incorporated with patients' history, physical exam, and other laboratory findings. In summary, you must know the coagulation alphabet. Remember the ones that have the shortest half-life, which includes protein C and factor 7. Remember that they're all made in the liver hepatocytes with the exception of factor 8. Remember the vitamin K dependent factors, mnemonic 1972, and finally the main mnemonics for the coagulation factors. I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you.